Hey, this is Steve Zeltzer with Workweek, and the struggle of workers to protect their health and safety is going on in many industries, in healthcare, in Amazon workers and transportation, and including the ILWU and Longshore workers in the Bay Area. And I'm joined today on Workweek with Trent Willis, who's president of ILWU Local 10, and Keith Shanklin, who is president of Local 34, the Clerks Local here in San Francisco. And they have been in a battle to protect their members and their families on the docks. Welcome to Workweek.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
So why don't you talk about the issues facing longshoremen and your battle to protect your members and their families?
Steve, this is Keith Shanklin. Yeah, we have a very big, broad situation here in the Bay Area, trying to cover most of our dock workers and our office staff from this COVID-19, especially due to the fact that it's an ongoing situation with the CDC. Things change from day to day. We don't understand how this virus is spread. We do know one thing, that is very deadly, and the end result usually end up is a casket. So with our members and our staff, we try to give them the best option, and that's to maintain their distance, be safe, use proper PPE, and also try to look out for one another, because we understand that if we don't do that, this could get out of hand very quickly, and I really don't think that that's what we want to do. We don't want to go to work one day and then be carried down, to the graveyard the next day. So we have to understand that, safety comes first, and most of all, the people that we work with, and our family and our friends.
Okay, thank you. That was Keith Shanklin with ILWU Local 34. And Trent Willis, you're president of Local 10. What kind of battle have you had to get the employers to make sure that your work locations and stations are clean?
Well, it's actually been a constant battle, Steve, with our employers to keep the equipment and the facilities sanitized and clean. But I'm sadly to say, we're no different from any of the other stories I've been hearing about workers across the country who have been in a constant battle with employers in this country to provide protections against the possible exposure to COVID-19. Our employers, actually, it's been a constant battle every day, leading all the way up to today, with the different employers we work for. Not the same employer every day. As Keith will tell you, we have different employers who fall under the umbrella of the Pacific Maritime Association. And, it's just been a constant battle trying to come to an agreement with the employers on specific guidelines that have been passed down from our coast level officers and the Pacific Maritime Association on the coast level.
And why is it so difficult for these guidelines to be followed?
Well, it's not difficult for the guidelines to be followed, but it's difficult when you're dealing with an entity that puts profit over lives. And that's what we're dealing with here. That's why I mentioned workers all across the country. There's definitely time for a rise of the worker and the unions across this country. This is actually exposing what the actual truth is, which is the lack of unions right now in this country. It's showing its glaring effects. We need to have more strong unions in this country to fight for workers' rights. The employers don't care about the workers. The only thing they care about is their profits. They don't care about putting us in dangerous situations, whether it be COVID-19 or any other hazardous situation that there is on the job. We have to recognize that it was a struggle to get the employers to provide a safe working environment before the coronavirus care about the individuals who's making it possible for them to make those profits, which is us, working class in this country.
And really, to tap in on what Trent said, you have the President of the United States get on TV and said, at least this isn't COVID-18, and then the Department of Health Secretary had to tell him that the reason why it's called COVID-19 is because that's the year it was discovered, not the damn numerology of what the disease was. Okay? And so we get into these bitter arguments with the employers about getting our health and safety intentions met.
And also the issue of discrimination and racism. Do you think that there's any? What is the basis of the fact that African Americans, Latinos, are the ones that have a higher proportion dying on the job from these diseases?
For me,
yeah,
Go ahead.
Trent.
Yeah, well, basically, we have those numbers, and this is just a theory of mine. We have those numbers because African Americans and minorities across this country are the most disenfranchised. They're the most people who don't have access to health care. We're the most people who live in poor conditions, that can't afford basic necessities. And this is why the coronavirus is affecting minorities more. It's not anything that is a danger to society always affects minorities more because of those reasons.
And in Oakland, where the docks are located, there were plans to privatize the Port of Oakland, Howard Terminal, and build a stadium there owned by John Fisher, who owns the A's. Is that kind of attitude, ethnic cleansing going on? I mean, it seems like there's money to build stadiums, but no money to take care of the homeless, and there are thousands of homeless in Oakland.
You look at the situation in Oakland and the disproportion of homeless on the streets, and you see it's mostly people of color and minorities. It's not just that. The problem stems from a bigger picture. The wealthy is taking care of the wealthy, and the poor is getting poorer. You had a Senate bill passed by a senator here who lives in the Bay Area, Nancy Skinner, Bill number 593, which was a bill to enhance the roads and the infrastructure of the bill for the stadium. It passed through the Congress with ease. But guess where the money was coming from? The money was coming from the coffers of the taxpayers of Oakland. Over $100 million of taxpayer money, which Mayor Schaaf told the people of Oakland that it would be privately funded and they wouldn't have to use $1 of taxpayers' money. See, these are the cloak and dagger type of politics that these politicians play with the people of Oakland, and these people need to wake up and listen to what's going on here in their city, because if you listen and you pay attention, that city council meeting should have been a ruckus, because when you spend $100 million of our resources to build infrastructure for a stadium that isn't even built yet, and you got an ongoing homeless problem that's out of control, which even the number 45 up in Washington said that it's a shame that California should have this problem. What are you doing about it, other than entertaining the rich by building them places for them to go play?
And that was Keith Shanklin, president of ILWU Local 34. Now, we're probably facing, there are already 22 million people unemployed in this country. We may have 30 to 40 million people unemployed in this country. as a result of the virus and the collapse of the economy here, the collapse of economy around the world. What kind of reorganization of our society are we going to need to take care of people or to feed people, these millions and millions of people, to house them and to provide for health care when we still have privatized health care, when some people get tests if you're in a rich community and poor people, they get nothing. Even healthcare workers are having trouble getting the tests. Trent?
Well, basically the working class is going to have to take a stand. After the Great Depression, the way that this country recovered was that the working class made a stand, started to form unions, and started to demand better conditions and wages and benefits from employers all across the country, which immediately brought this country out of the Depression. Okay? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that when the employers and the super rich are allowed to run roughshod over the economy, that they destroy the economy. For example, you talked about the proposed Oakland A's stadium. If it's not clear by now that the port is essential to the health and safety of the citizens of Oakland, not just Oakland, but pretty much this whole state, in regards to supplies and shipment and things that people need, citizens need to survive. If that's not clear after this pandemic, then I don't know what other signal these people need to see. Okay, now just picture this for a minute, because one of the main fights against the A's stadium is that the A's stadium would block the turnaround basin for the ships that come into the Port of Oakland to be loaded and discharged in cargo, essential cargo. If that stadium had been there now, okay, we would have a definite problem getting crucial supplies to people who really need them here in this city and other surrounding cities and cities up and down the state of California. So there is no question whether we have super rich people here who don't care. They're not even looking at this in an intelligent way. They're only looking at money. Because how could you come in and destroy your main artery, your vein, for supplies? Even if the A Stadium was built there, it would still need to be supplied with goods. I mean, you still want to be able to sell goods. You want to be able to stock shelves with goods. And you have people who have one-track mind. The President of the United States has a one-track mind. That's the danger of electing someone who represents big business to the highest, the most powerful office in the world.
And we're speaking with Trent Willis, president of ILWU Local 10, and Keith Shanklin. And there's going to be a May Day. Why don't you talk about the ILWU and May Day, the history of the ILWU and May Day, and what's going to be happening this coming May Day, Friday, May 1st?
Well, we have put together a program to where we honor the people who work in this world, and that's all the workers of the world. We're going to get together with other locals, 75 and 91, and have a joint rally. We're going to have some speeches, but the main thing that we want to do is get the workers' word put across to the people to understand that we're working together to unite, to make sure that we have a voice, and our voice counts. Because as we speak about this latest pandemic and the infrastructure of the United States and of the world, we are the movers and shakers. We are the ones that make the rich rich. We are the ones who put our best foot put forward. In the morning when we get up, we are the ones who have to get up and go to work. We do this. The workers of the world. And we got to understand that on May 1st, this is our day. We claim this day as a day that we move forward into giving workers their rights to speak and their rights to do things. We move on this day. And Brother Trent will let you know that in his union, it's the same way, just like it is in mine. The working people are the ones who are in charge. And that's what we do on May Day. We give the workers people back their right to say what they need to say on May 1st.
And that,
Mr. Willis?
Yes, and just to add to that, Brother Steve, first your audience needs to understand exactly what May Day represents. May Day is the real labor day for this country. May Day is celebrated all over the world in all other countries except this one. But it originated in this country. It was the original fight for the 8-hour day here in the United States back in the 1800s. Before the May Day struggle, and also people died fighting for the right to an 8-hour workday. In other words, fighting for the right to get off of work and go home. Because before May Day, before the fight for the 8-hour day, we had employers, once again, who only cared about profit, didn't care about lives, and worked people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no type of conditions, no weekends off, no holidays, maybe no lunch breaks, things like that. These are all things that people take for granted now. They don't understand that working people throughout our history had to fight and die for these things. The 8-hour day is just one of the items that May Day represents. Now, the rest of the world celebrates May Day, but the United States of America wanted to downplay the real Labor Day. So our Labor Day here in the United States was changed to September, so that we wouldn't be on the same accord as the workers in the other countries. Because what is dangerous to big business, what they are terrified of, is they're terrified of workers uniting all around the world. Workers in this country, not just in this country, but all around the world, need to realize this pandemic is showing you how essential you are. I know they want to pick out different workers. They want to say, well, the longshoremen are essential because we're bringing the goods in. They want to say the hospital workers are essential because they're taking care of sick people. And they want to say the people who work in the grocery stores are essential because the work that they're doing is allowing you to go in and buy the badly needed items that people need to live their daily lives. However, you don't have the president of the United States on TV hooping and hollering about opening the country back up for nothing. You don't have him sparking protest from his supporters because workers are not essential. All workers are essential because workers make the country spin. Workers do that, not rich business billionaires. Okay? It is the everyday working man like you and I who go out and we make this economy spin. Okay? There's no question about it now. All workers should be looking at this situation and realizing this and realizing how we need to come together, whether we're black, white, Asian, all races, genders, doesn't matter. If you are a worker, you are in the one union that's important, and that's the working class. And people need to realize that and stand together and demand from these big businesses, billionaires, and the people that represent these billionaires, which are your congressmen and your elected officials, okay, who are supposed to be in office to represent your interests realize that we can outvote them. Realize that we need to put people in office who represent the working people, and realize what the fight is going forward. Because going forward, I'm hoping that if anything good comes out of this pandemic, that working people in this country, especially the young ones, realize what we have to do to make sure that we are represented and to make sure that the conditions on every job are satisfactory and make it possible for the middle class. I guess that's a word now that's estranged, the middle class, because the middle class is gone. But we need to reassure that all working people have decent enough conditions so that people can live long and happy lives.
And you're listening to Trent Willis and Keith Shanklin. And the last point, there was a rally that was held earlier this month to demand the evacuation of the crew of the Grand Princess. And these are over 500 seafarers in a ship, the passenger ship, who have been basically kept on the ship as prisoners in a Petri dish, contaminated. What does it say about this country and about humanity when seafarers are basically, they're imprisoned on the ship, and now there are 4 of those cruisers in Los Angeles area and a bunch in Florida, and they're being stuck on the ship. They won't let them off the ship. Shank?
We understand the problem with the Grand Princess. It's Carnival Cruise Line that's got the bigger problem. Carnival Cruise Line, they got to understand that those are Filipino nationals, and they belong to the Philippines. Even though we have a no travel zone outside the United States, that the conditions of them to have to stay on a floating ship in the middle of the waterway is appalling. Those are humans. They're not slaves. But you turn them into slaves because you put them on a ship and you're not letting them have any interaction with anybody other than themselves. That ship should have been to Florida, should have been dropped off those crew members, and let that ship go into anchor or whatever they're going to do with it and get those people back on dry land. Because that ship should not be just floating out there in the middle of the water. Because they're talking about bringing that ship back to the Bay Area for another docking. And there's something that needs to be done. There's something that really needs to be done about that.
And I think we're going to have some speakers on that at the May Day rally. It's going to be on Friday, May 1st at SSA Terminal, 10 a.m. And I want to thank you very much for joining us on Work Week. Trent Willis, president of ILWU Local 10, and Keith Shanklin, president of ILWU Local 34. Thanks for joining us on this program today.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.